is my place, and I am welcome.
Okay, well, good morning, everyone. And what we're talking about today is the wonder of the present moment. And what I want to kind of connect it to is what is happening in the world today and how that actually works. And so Unity Worldwide Ministries has as its theme for 2021 is how to stay centered no matter what. And it's obvious the theme came up because of what was happening in 2020. But that whole concept of being centered is actually about being in the present moment. And it is, how do we hold ourselves when stuff is going around us? But it's also, how do we experience life? What Pierre Teilhard de Chardin has said, and we often quote him in Unity, we are not human beings having a spiritual experience. We are spiritual beings having a human experience. So how is it that we're going to have that human experience? How are we going, and connected to that spiritual part of us? To have a full experience of life, we need to be in that present moment. Now, what's going on around us? Well, first of all, there's a pandemic, and there's fear all around it, and it keeps changing, and so fear comes up. What is needed, and where we end up working best, is when we have faith that we can get through this. This is part of that human experience, but we are eternal. We are we live and move and have our being in God, and God is ever present and eternal. And so that this is where we want to put our attention. Charles Fillmore tells us in Talks on Truth, God is, and we are. Let us live in his world, not as a world to be tomorrow, next month, next year, or next century, but here and now. God's beautiful universe is all about us. That's kind of an interesting thought, because that's how we experience it. Only awaiting our acknowledgement of its presence. And so it is in our awareness that we acknowledge the presence of the universe and all those activities within it. Let us know God. What is that? Let us know God and live with love and joy and health and peace here evermore. And this is what we want to do, is to have joy and peace and faith and experience life fully. And currently we're having some challenges on that. And so how do we do that? And part of that is being in the present moment and being aware of it, and putting ourselves into activities and the consciousness to be in that present moment. Now, what I'm about to show you, it may look like a travelogue, but it really isn't intended. I'm going to be showing you a number of pictures out of experiences that I've had. and actually that some of you have, because there's pictures of you as well in here. And it is, and as I looked through, I was going to pick a couple of examples and more came up. As we look through the pictures, there are different ways of looking at any particular activity and how we find the presence within it and how we find the joy in it and the wisdom in it, and sometimes how we get through the fear in it. And so all these activities are going on. For me, part of this journey, I'm not going to go way back in my life, but I'm going to start with my spiritual path. In 2004, I got ordained. But the 2 years previous, what I was experiencing was being in ministerial school at Unity Village and finding all kinds of moments that what I call now moments. And they were aha moments. And part of it was they were intellectual moments. And they were and heart moments, really connecting to unity and the unity message. Prior to that, I found unity actually in a church in Warren, Michigan. I say I found my spiritual path in Detroit, which some people laugh at. But again, it was having the music and the message and whatever. In the moment, it touched me. And I still remember those moments. And I'm sure that you have moments that touched you, and that when you go, when you think about them, they come up in the present moment now too. And you re-experience them, that openness, that connection to spirit. And that is what I found. But in those particular moments at that time, those ahas and those awarenesses were transformational for me. One of the other things that I have found is to do a variety of spiritual practices. And one that I love is walking the labyrinth. I walked the labyrinth at Unity Village. This one is at the Bethlehem Retreat Center in Nanaimo when I first went there. And it's a beautiful labyrinth. And so, and I find, and a labyrinth can be kind of tricky because you are releasing all those things that you want to let go of. And at the same time, once you get in and you start coming out, you open yourself up to inspiration from spirit. Sometimes it's about what you want to do in the future. And yet, we can only release in the present moment, and we can only be inspired in the present moment. And so we have to allow ourselves to be there, as Charles Fillmore was telling us. Then the world gives us moments where things startle us. This is in between Nanaimo and Tofino. There's a cafe, an emporium, and so forth, and they have grass on top, and then they have some goats on top. And sometimes when we see something like this that's kind of incongruent with the way we see the world, it brings us out of whatever thoughts we have, and we kind of join in. And this amused me, and I have taken several friends to see it when there's been an opportunity to do it. But there are unexpected things in the world which kind of jar us out of kind of that awareness or that sensation of not being fully present, and they bring us into the present moment. As many of you know, I spent 7 years going back and forth between Toronto and Mexico. And I had many experiences there, but I'm going to share several because they are of a particular type. And perhaps you can think of moments that have been like that for you. One of the things that I found in driving through Mexico, and I drove from Toronto to Mexico, it was a 5-day trip, and I went through a variety of terrain. And this is one trip that Reverend Pat will remember, because she'll be here somewhere. And because this trip, I was going through Laredo, Monterrey, and then from Durango to Manzanillo to cross to the Baja, California part of Mexico. And the mountains are amazing. And there's these rickety bridges. And what there was I was in awe. I was in awe of the ingenuity of human beings that can put these structures into this raw landscape. And I believe that's a train that's crossing it. But I also drove across some of these bridges. And one of the things that you want to be is in the present moment. And also in that present moment, I found myself doing prayers, but not out of fear, out of gratitude that things were working and that there was this amazing vista and opportunities for me. And part of the trip was, this is on the same road, and there's hardly any cars. There's just these big trucks there and steep grades, and also steep switchbacks that go around, and they're sometimes I found myself going around the corners at 5 kilometers an hour because one, I wanted to make the turn, and two, I wanted to know what was coming the other way. And but what it does is really center. I found when I drove, because I would drive for 5 days and most of it was alone, and I had to be fully present to keep myself safe, but also to appreciate what was all around me. Now, part of this trip was in the Baja, as I said, near Cabo St. Lucas. However, Pat and I went exploring. That's my car, the Camry, and we're parked in front of Hotel California, which was in Todos Santos. And we decided that we were going to check in to Hotel California. And so we took a picture of that. And then the next day we were checking out, and we did get to leave. But part of this whole part of the world was there was a cafe that would play the Eagles, and we also went to a beach where there were some singers, and it was kind of a throwback to the 60s and 70s, and a lot of them played Eagles songs. One of my favorites was Peaceful, Easy Feeling. And again, it was being in that moment, being present to that sensation that's ever present, that we can always go to. And so in that moment, we appreciated the culture, our culture, the music, but also the whimsy of places that are around and that we can truly appreciate. Another thing that I did in Mexico was go to many of the ancient ruins. This is in Teotihuacan, which is where the pyramids are. And I went to places like that around the world. I saw the pyramids in Egypt. I saw the Colosseum in Rome. I saw the Taj Mahal in India. And it takes my breath away. And it again would be nothing else would be present, just this appreciation for the beings that we are, having this human experience and how we interact with the planet. And we build on it and we have a presence in it. And this is the creative force of spirit working in and through us. And so we appreciate what human beings have done throughout the ages. And we also then appreciate what is happening now, whether it's those bridges, and there are amazing bridges around the world these days, or the amazing buildings that have gone up. But in the present moment, we can appreciate so much about life and interacting with life on this planet and the continuity of it. And it is present now, and it's present now, and it's present now. And it goes on. And so the past is in the present. Something else that happened on one of my trips, I was coming home. This is in 2014. And I was driving home. It was in May. Traffic's not busy. I'm standing there, and all of a sudden, an 18-wheeler hits my car and sends me. You can see where the road is. And it sent me flying about 150 feet. And my car, bless it, was held together. The front and back were smashed and some around, but the cab held together. The airbags deployed. The seat belt held me back so I didn't smash into the windshield. And I walked away from that accident, although the car obviously was totaled. And again, one of the things I had been doing all the way up from Guadalajara, this is just outside of Laredo, was doing a gratitude practice. And I was very present in the moment that this happened, although I did not see the truck coming. Not that I could have done anything had I seen it coming. But even in disasters and when things happen, we find ways of being fully present. And our spirit works through us in those moments. And in that moment, although you can't see any activity in this picture, there were several trucks that stopped, and people helped me and unloaded my car, and I got a translator and all kinds of things. But I was fully present in that moment. And I just knew that all would be okay. Now, another thing that we did, this is Unity. This was a cruise for the conference. This is my friend, Reverend Barbara Williams from Florida. And there are a number of activities. And one of the things that I think is important is to challenge ourselves and to have fun. And the way we decided to have fun was to go on a zip line. And I had done this before, but one of the things I found, they were never long enough. The first time I went on a zip line, I was terrified. And it wasn't until halfway through it that I suddenly was enjoying it and wanted to do it again. But it was part of a ropes course, and I couldn't do it again. There was a canyon in between. And so I had opportunities from that time to do it again. Well, here's Barbara ready to go down. And this is the practice zip line. And so I'm right behind her, and away we went. But the actual, the big zip line, this is what I was so excited about doing, was this one. I think it's about a half a mile. It's across the bay. This is in Haiti, and that's obviously our boat. But one of the things that I remember about this portion of that activity was how absolutely I could feel the air, the sun, the wind, and and just that sensation of being high up above the earth and just flying through it. And that is also part of activities and opportunities in which we can connect with the planet, have some joy. This was absolutely a joyful experience for me. Another experience that I had, which is kind of fun, I wasn't too sure if I wanted to do it, but I did. I really like going. I used to like going snorkeling, but there was this opportunity to go underwater. Oh, here she is. To go underwater and have this helmet, and I wasn't sure about it because it's not actually sealed, but because of the way the air comes in, it was there. And we were given, have a picture and holding up different little critters that were um, conveniently handy around. However, the part that I want to emphasize given this talk is that it was really quite an amazing sensation to be in a different part of the environment of the planet, to be underwater and feel safe, and to look around and to see it differently. And again, when you do that, you are fully present. And so there's me, and then there's Reverend Pat. And we had, I mean, it was an amazing experience. This is Barbara again. We are in Niagara Falls. We're in the Butterfly Conservatory. What I was really looking for was the picture of when we were in Mexico, outside of Mexico City, on a mountain where all the monarch butterflies come. And we did go there, and where there were millions and millions of monarch butterflies, and they came, and we were taken up by a guide who took us up about 11 o'clock as in the morning, as the sun was warming the butterflies up, and they fluttered and they were on us, and it was truly a spiritual experience, that connection with nature, and really experiencing sort of the collective nature, that you have these millions of butterflies. And in this conservatory, you also had the butterflies that they would connect together. And so there is something when we interact with nature, and we do it kind of in the wild, and we also do it at home. You saw earlier a picture of Casey, who came with Pat everywhere, as she now has Chloe come with her everywhere. But there is something about that connection that, again, is all about being present. And it's us having that human experience, and yet still knowing that it is spirit expressing through us. And so coming to nature, this is obviously Niagara Falls, and it's one of my favorite places on the planet. And I often had visitors would come and to Toronto, and I would send them off to different places and give them advice. But if they wanted to go to Niagara Falls, I like to take them, because one of my favorite activities is to stand on the edge of Niagara Falls and watch the water flow. And there's something in that connection. I'm very, very present in that connection. And it is really understanding the power of the planet, of spirit, the spirit, excuse me, getting a dry throat. And so, and again, when you're present in this kind of environment, you can feel yourself be present in that moment. Now, you don't have to have these outstanding experiences. They're ones that I remember, but I also, which I didn't put a picture in, but I wish I had, where I have my quiet moment, reading a book, and all of a sudden just feeling absolutely present. This is in India. And it is a footbridge across the Ganges River. And there's a cow there, and there are many cows everywhere. But I sort of remember this because, frankly, that cow didn't look all that healthy. And I didn't get it, still don't get it, in terms of sort of the cultural okayness with all these cows on the roads in different places. And so what it reminded me of, just even in that present moment, spirit expresses through us in a variety of ways and in a variety of cultures. And there's sometimes we don't know it all. We don't get it. We open ourselves up to it, and yet we still don't get it. It is something that's different, but somehow we don't quite understand it. And I think sometimes when we look at how other cultures live, we don't understand it, but it is the creativity of spirit, and bless that cow. In the same place in Rishikesh, we were having a gathering on the edge of the Ganges River, and they were passing around these containers with flames and other accoutrements, I guess. And what we were doing was sitting on the edge of the Ganges River, and what that evening was a Kirtan, which was sitting and chanting and having prayers, but it was an amazing experience, a collective experience in the present moment. A collective experience is what we do in church, and it just moved me to tears to be there and to know that people had been coming there for hundreds, if not thousands of years, and that energy of spirit and song and appreciation and worship in praise. And it was truly moving. And we have that experience in the collective. It is one of the challenges of the pandemic, since we do not do much of the collective, but we have tried to do it through television, through Zoom, through other ways, because there is something of coming together in that collective mode that is important to have that sense of oneness. Then there is art. This is Jehuli, who creates these amazing, just incredible, huge works of art and in glass. And this is glass. This is at the Royal Ontario Museum. And this particular sculpture just blew me away. But actually all of his sculptures do. And this is Lauren Harris, who is part of the group of 7. And this is at the Kleinberg Art Gallery. And he's probably one of my favorite painters. And art moves us in different ways. And we express, and it touches something within us. And so if you show me art that you appreciate, I'll see a little more of who you are. if, as I show you art that I appreciate. And it is different. You know, we have different things that we appreciate. And then there's connections with friends. And this is obviously with Pat Ball when she had her heart issues and was having a bypass. And I joined her, and then I joined her for a couple of months to be her chauffeur while she recovered. But there's both a sense of worry and let's go back. Worry and upset when someone has a challenge, but there's also that whole sense of love and caring that shows up and that we really want to be. And that's part of that human experience that we talk about. There's the oneness, and then there's the appreciation of the individualness, of the eachness of each of us. And of course, then there's the group. And this was a conference, I believe it was in Kitchener, with some of the people from, well, it was in Newmarket at the time, but part of the York Region group. And again, there's something about getting together and being inspired together and looking at what we're doing together and noticing and claiming the being together. And that again is in the now moment. And Vesna was telling us, ta-da, here we are. And so those are a variety of moments that were important and significant to me. There are many, many more. I was looking at my pictures and I kind of wondered, I mean, there were thousands, I think, because, you know, with digital cameras, you can just keep snapping them. And how do you pick one that has the meaning that you want to express? But in having those pictures, I think this affirmation for faith for this month kind of expresses it. My faith assures me that every event in my life has meaning and brings gifts with it. And so we have those. Now, we can allow the events in our lives to have meaning for us and to inform us, or we can let them float by. And it is that awareness in the present moment that we really get the fullness of having that human experience as spiritual beings. Now, Charles Fillmore gives us a little more advice. If you are obedient to spirit, you will not suffer these burdens to be loaded upon you. So what he's saying, that when you focus on spirit, the burdens don't feel as heavy. You will live in the present and do your highest duty every day, and forget the past and let the future take care of itself. The past doesn't exist, and neither does the future. And if we take time within the present moment to think about the past or the future and not be aware of what's happening at this time, we are always living in illusion rather than in the reality of the moment and really savoring the goodness that is there in life. And even with the pandemic, there are many ways in which we are experiencing really amazing moments, whether it's people learning to walk more and to see things outside more, whether it's connecting more directly to people, whether it's reading more books or watching more television sometimes. But there's really opportunities to have that be a part of us. And a final note from Charles Fillmore. It is the law of spirit that we will, oops, I've got something in my way here. It is the law of spirit that we must be that which we would draw to us. So we have to be that which we want in our lives. If we would draw to us love, we must be love, be loving and kind. If we would have peace and harmony in our environment, we must establish it within ourselves. And if we want to have joy and fun, we must be joy and fun. And so we have to look at what is it that we're drawing to us in the present moment. Do we draw to us fear? Do we draw to us worry? Or do we draw to us appreciation for that moment? And so I want to end with this affirmation. I appreciate the wonder of being in the present moment. So relax and breathe in. And as you breathe in, you can say, God is. And as you breathe out, I am. And as you breathe in, we are. And as you breathe out, one. So, God is. I am. We are one. So allow yourself to just be fully present in this moment. And allow these following words to be your own, wherever they resonate with your own inner truth. There is one infinite mind everywhere present, and it is whole and it is love. That oneness enfolds me in the now moment. Awareness of that divine wholeness and love permeates my being and unfolds in my mind, soul, and body. I acknowledge my oneness with the presence. I am the creative expression of God's love and intelligence. I am in the presence of pure being and immersed in the Holy Spirit of life and love. And I appreciate being in the presence. I treasure the creative impulse of my heart, and I surrender to the deepest wisdom within me. I become aware of the watcher in me as I pay attention to my thoughts and let them go, as I pay attention to how I respond to the moment. I am aware that the deepest wisdom is not intelligence, but knowing. And I reach this knowing through surrender to my inner being. I notice thought patterns without judgment. I experience peace, love, and joy. Prayer is a time of repose when the mind settles gently into the heart. Practicing awareness of the now moment, I let myself go into the silence. I sink into the present moment and drop into the silence. Now is the most precious thing there is. It is all there is. The eternal present is the space within which my whole life unfolds. I immerse myself into this feeling of connection and love. I am dwelling in perfect truth, and my life is clear creation of my soul's wisdom. I open my heart and gratitude pours forth. My life is perfect the way it is. And so I say, thank you, God. And so it is. Amen.